A Harrier Problem by Blue Bastard. Chapter 13 Grounded Flight. Applebloom was in one heck of a pickle. In just slightly over a month and a half, she'd gone from her regular old self as a farm filly, living a normal life, with some exceptions thanks to her sister being the element of honesty, to living something close to a double life, thanks to having been cursed with lycanthropy by means she still didn't understand. It was bad enough, she kept having to risk discovery once a week to go on midnight runs, her secret being exposed if anybody in the house heard her leave the house, or he came in to check in on her while she was out. But not running would drive her crazy with all that pent-up energy she wouldn't be able to expel. It probably helped that she had plenty of experience of sneaking out at night for crochet-related reasons. But even when she had her body under control, it was still hard to make it through the average school day. Her improved hearing sometimes gave her slight migraines due to her eardrums being able to listen to much higher frequencies. She occasionally had the urge to just stick out her tongue, pant during class, and to top it all off, she now had to deal with the possibility of two others who were possibly privy to her secret could bring disaster on top of her head. In retrospect, it had been completely stupid to use her new form to scare the crap out of Diamond Tiara, regardless of how much she deserved it. After hearing that Diamond Tiara was still of the opinion he was an actual werewolf, the sudden cold burns she'd gotten from Diamond Tiara's silver friendship bracelet a little while back was making more sense. While Diamond Tiara didn't have the resources to harm Applebloom severely, she could still make her life hell. More worrisome was Babs. She had been seen in Ponyville a full day before she was on track to figuring out what Applebloom had been hiding. Frankly, it was pure luck Applebloom had decided to shift back after a run before going for the dog treats, or Babs would have known the truth right away. Diamond Tiara may have been a more vindictive brat with all intentions to ruin Applebloom, but at least she lived in another house. Babs practically was now bucking in the room next to Applebloom, and even though it was truly a nice pony, wouldn't hesitate to tell the rest of the apples what her cousin had become. In fairness, Babs most likely would do so out of fear instead of any ill intent towards Applebloom, but the end result would be the same: disastrous. Finally, the school bell rang for the final time, letting loose the small horde of fillies and colts back into the world. Babs ended up needing to use the little fillies room this time, leaving Applebloom free to confide in her friends. "What am I gonna do?" moaned Applebloom. "So can't ever learn where I am, if she finds out that the rest of my family will find out, and I can't let that happen." "You need to calm down, first of all," said Scootaloo. "As long as you can keep your wild side under control for a while, Babs will probably forget about the whole thing." "Easier said than done. You're not the one shoving dog trees in your mouth like candy," glumly replied Applebloom. "Well, why don't you just tell Babs the truth?" suggested Sweetie. "I mean, that's probably what we should have done in the first place. Yeah, she's your family, no denying that, but the whole bad scene thing we all went through the first time she visited was because nobody actually communicated with each other." "Because telling her will mean that I would have to explain the whole family history of werewolves, including Applejack explained. I can't do that. Lacey would blow fuses and knew I already told you about what really went down to Everfree that night." Further discussion on this subject was cut off as Babs returned, prompting to force them to walk down off from school, talking about how they would get their kitty marks. All the while, the two Apple family cousins worry of each other. "There, that'll do it," a relieved farmer exclaimed as the last crossbeam went into place. The heavy rainstorm that had taken place a little 2 weeks ago hadn't directly caused any major damage to the property on Sweet Apple Acres. But since then, the crossbeams on some sections of the fence marking edges of the farm had started to show advanced sign of rotting. Thus, most of the day had been spent hauling around a cart full of replacement beams and swapping them in. It hadn't been hard physical labor, insofar as it had been maddeningly repetitive, but it was a nice change of pace for continuously bucking the seemingly infinite number of apple trees spread across their family's land. Taking a moment to rest before hauling the bad fence beams to the barn turned to be firewood. Alzak looked across the land and took in the sights. Most ponies who lived in the main part of town and other cities would just see an endless expanse of unending work, ranging from actual crop harvesting to providing for livestock, and of course the cost and trouble of keeping the building standing. She too had once only seen the farm that way, years ago, although she had been a mere filly who didn't know much about the world. Applejack could not recall how much influence her desire to see the urban-style pony society has been on one basis to leave the farm, at least in comparison to having to deal with the sudden deaths of her parents. Maybe she left the farm more out of a need to get away from it all, remove herself from a life that had caused her pain she didn't fully understand at the time. None of that mattered in the long run, since he realized upon seeing the magical rainbow, aka Rainbow Dash, streak across the sky right to Ponyville, Sweet Apple Acres was where she belonged. Her parents had only been out that fateful night because they needed to meet their crowd harvesting quota in order to feed their family. Even after they healed up from the attacks, most likely already become werewolves at that point, AJ remembered they spent quite a few nights working on the field, past the time when she and her siblings were put in bed, all to keep the family sustained. Their extra production from Werewolf Enhanced Endurance hadn't brought in that much extra income, but it had been enough to keep the parentless apples afloat long enough for other parts of the apple family to move in temporarily and prevent the farm from going under, right up until Big Mac and herself could manage the farm without help. I'm spiking the ponies of late help, thought Applejack, having caught in the corner of vision the familiar after-movements of a particular Pegasus approaching from the right. But since he saw the other after-movements of a Pegasus he was familiar with following close behind. The Pegasus in front also noticed the second one, limiting to zigzag to avoid getting tackled. The second Pegasus, however, made no move to close the gap between it and the first one, only changing its flight path slightly when its target made any significant changes in the direction of himself. The second Pegasus suddenly shot past the first one, when the latter turned right towards Applejack, flying in front and making to block what must have been perceived as an attempt to crash right into the grounded Earth pony. However, an outblocked Pegasus simply slowed to a stop in front of Applejack's guardian, with both ponies proceeding to argue for a short while, but became more confrontational when the defending pony proved to be more aggressive than the pony had been flying towards Applejack. Surprisingly, they came to a kind of agreement, whereupon both Pegasus ponies pursued flying towards Applejack. "What was that all about?" asked Applejack, wondering what could be going on, considering who she was in the presence of. "Just says he needs to talk to you about something," said Rainbow, evidently still not trusting her former lead pony. "Although I doubt that's what she's owed you for over a year." I know, easily replied Lightning Dust. While instead her normal standoffish nature, she currently seemed anxious. Admittedly, the last time she had been in Ponyville was during something akin to a midlife crisis, having been tricked by stable loans into challenging Applejack to a race she couldn't have possibly won, then trying to beat up Applejack, only in turn had been made by the enraged werewolf. She didn't spend time recovering in Ponyville General, but the second her wing had healed up to the point she could fly, she skipped down in the middle of the night. "Little guys, you're here to challenge me to another race," mocked Applejack. While the racer revealed Applejack's secret to Lightning Dust, Pegasus couldn't blackmail Applejack with the truth since he was no longer a werewolf. "Please, this is important," pleaded the awkward Rare. "Look, I know I was in the wrong for the whole thing with the race and the fighting and all. Celestia knows what I was thinking at the time. While it's far overdue and you have absolutely every right to ignore what I say, I honestly, deeply, and truly am sorry for everything." Applejack said nothing, studying the out-of-character hotshot mare in front of her. Admittedly, compared to the complete mess Lightning Dust had been a year ago, she was looking far better. Her colored mane and tail all looked well kept. Wings weren't in need of preening. Her breath didn't smell like stale liquor. Really, the only sign anything was still wrong was the rings under her eyes. While they weren't nearly as bad as they had been, they were still evidence he hadn't been sleeping. However, at the same time, the look in Lightning Dust's eyes couldn't mean anything else other than her being completely honest with her apology. To be honest, I kind of forgot about the whole thing, as I was going through some rough stuff myself, as you probably found out. "Yeah." Lightning Dust looked away from Applejack. When she merely tipped the earth pony off, there was something more too while Lightning Dust was here, something involving Applejack's lycanthropy. Rainbow noticed as well. "Hey, it's about the fact you explicitly told Iron Will about Applejack being a werewolf after I explicitly told you not to tell any pony. That was a year ago. In the end, things only ended as possibly as they had because he'd known the truth. So you don't have any reason to be still mad at you. Even though I did expect you to at least apologize a long time ago." "Yeah," replied Dust again. "I don't expect either of you, or anybody else for that matter, to respect my reasons for taking this long. But the truth is, I couldn't bring myself to talk to any of you face to face until now. The whole business back at Wonderful Academy? Yeah, I was a total pain in the rear, and I deserved to get kicked out. But even then, I still had more respect for myself in some way or another, because my focus was more on making me look better than anybody else. But when I challenged you to a race, Applejack, I ended up wanting to actually hurt somebody. And for nothing more than bragging rights that truly meant nothing to me. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror after I got out of the hospital. So how would I expect ponies like you two, who have wronged multiple times, to even listen to an apology from a pony who had even less respect for herself than you did? Rainbow, much to her surprise as Dust and Applejack's, found herself compelled to wrap a wing around the other Pegasus. Well, you look much better than you were before, Dust. You'll find no ill will from any pony around here if you truly turned over a new leaf. Secondly, Dust shook her head sadly and used her own wings to move off Rainbow's. Like I could believe that. Too bad karma decided that's not going to happen for me. Then Applejack remembered Lightning Dust was living in Baltimore. Elderly, are you staying in a local hotel or something? Baltimore is a mile far to fly on a single day, even just one way. You don't have any luggage or anything. Yeah, now that you mention it, added Dust, scratching her head with a hoof. I'm staying at Traveler's Retreat, answered Dust. Money is right for me now because Baltimore's government is having some kind of financial shutdown. While most of the weather team got furloughed, I was outright replaced by somebody who doesn't get drunk and pick fights with timberwolves, if you know what I mean. Since then, I've been managing a living by working through a temp agency. But I can't even do that anymore because of my condition. Condition? Simultaneously asked for AJ and RD. Here, look at my teeth, said Lightning, wrapping up her jaw just so her perfectly white. Nearly Applejack noticed the 4 fang-like incisors, causing her heart to sink in recognition of LD's condition. Rainbow, meanwhile, turned pale and barely found enough of a voice to say, You're... Dust closed her mouth. Yeah, can't say I don't deserve it, after all I've done. And no, I haven't been anything else. Well, frankly, I actually really changed all that much, besides what you just saw, once I myself found a week ago. I immediately came to Ponyville, since if any pony would be able to tell me if I was becoming what you and that whoever it was Iron Well paraded around the corpse of had been. Be you. And yesterday I somehow found myself at the meat restaurant here in town, with some kind of meat sandwich in front of me. Like you not only ate it, but you liked it, even though it was meat. Finished Applejack, shuddering at the resurfacing memory of that day, right before she first turned. How did the slim thing? Although the immediate result of that probably was a lot worse in comparison. Late? I loved it! Emphasized Lightning Dust, not apparently in the further crying. It was then I knew I was becoming a werewolf like you, since I never got near people in my life before then. Rainbow immediately flew to front of Applejack, once again becoming her bodyguard. So is that why you're here? For revenge on Applejack for making you a werewolf? Lightning shook her head. No, nothing of the sort. Honestly, I think it was that other guy who had goaded me into that race challenge in the first place, who you guys said was a werewolf. I still don't remember what happened after that drinking contest, since I blacked out at some point. For all I know, he could have bitten me then, and I'm only now showing signs. See, the bulldog go over to grab the Applejack with her forelegs, knocking Rainbow out of the way. Please, Applejack, you gotta somehow manage to keep living like a normal pony, despite having this curse. You gotta help me! I'm sorry, Dust, but... Applejack gulped. This wasn't gonna be easy. I'm not a werewolf no more. I haven't been for about a year now. You managed to cure yourself? How? Well, I had to kill Sable. Apparently the only way you could cure yourself of lack or whatever it is, you gotta kill the werewolf who turned you. Lightning said nothing as her death grip loosened, letting Applejack go. Look at her face, Rainbow noted, was a more morose version of her expression as he had been kicked out of the wonderful training program. So, basically, I'm completely and totally bucked, she whimpered. No, you're not, Rainbow insisted as if having empathy. Back when AT was a wolf, some of our friends had gone up to the Crystal Empire. What does that have to do with this? Interrupted Lightning. Rainbow saw Dust a dirty look for having interrupted. Because King, what was his name? King Sofa was the one who created the werewolf curse. So be quiet and listen. Where was I? Oh, right. Apparently King Salvo had recorded a bunch of research about werewolves in the castle, which our friends found, which mentioned that the dark magic powering the curse is basically able to be transferred to another pony through a deep bite was caused of contact with the victim's blood. However, Pegasus ponies like us have thinner blood since we live in thinner parts of the upper atmosphere. So that could be slowing the currents as shown by you only recently starting getting the effects. How did you know, all right? Asked the slack-jawed Applejack. Lightning raised an eyebrow at the orange pony. She's a weremancer. If somebody gets hurt on her watch, she needs to know basic metal information like that. Seriously, she may be hard-headed, but she's not stupid. You listening, Mikey? But this still doesn't answer why I'm possibly still not condemned for being a flying werewolf monster. No, it doesn't, answered Rainbow. But it means Princess Light Aka will most likely know what to do. Now follow me! With that, Rainbow dashed in the air, Lightning not far behind. Both Pegasus ponies heading to the direction of Golden Oaks. Applejack watched the two fly off the town. Then just sat silently was looking at her head. No pony deserves from being a werewolf, Cedar said to herself, no matter what they do. Raspberry barreled Fidwell out to Cashmere and Ascot for the time being. Then left through the main door into the night before her. Heliodor was already waiting, using his own magic to become a small beacon of light to guide the way. Traveling by night would be dangerous once the duo were out of Ponyville's limits, since they were going right into Everfree, as it was the most direct route to their destination. But between Heliodor's natural weaponry as a bird of prey, and Raspberry's experience in having to spend many nights in the past alone in dangerous conditions, they were more than up for the task. It was also for the best if no pony was around to stop them and ask where they were going, since Raspberry wanted to keep her a source of gems a secret, lest other gem hunters deprive her of the means of her employment. At night, there was no pony except a lone guard or two Raspberry could easily avoid. With Heliodor now perched like a sentient lamp on top of the unicorn's horn, they were like a glowing spirit moving through the silent town. Raz couldn't help but find it weird how the town could be so full of life during the day, yet at night the town basically was dead, save for a few nighttime activities scattered all over the settlement. With her ever-faithful pet laying up the night, the unicorn couldn't help but feel like it was an apt reflection of her journey through life. She, a lost light, navigating through a sea of homes that, while on the inside would be cozy and friendly, were barred from any pony on the outside coming in, their dark states unwelcoming. Almost as if in desperation, she quickly turned to look into the direction of the traveler's retreat. In contrast to the town, the retreat was lit up, a beacon in its own right that symbolized the thing Raspberry had always been looking for, both metaphorically and literally. It was a place where she could go and feel at home, where she would feel wanted by ponies who didn't care who she was. In fact, she knew it was dangerous for her to have been accepted by becoming even more permanent residents of the retreat. So the truth ever got out, it would destroy what Casimir and Asgard spent years building up. But it won't happen, mentally swore Raspberry, who with a renewed determination turned away from the warm light and surged towards the darkness. I've already told Princess Twilight more about the truth than any pony has ever known outside of Wilson Dove. Maybe if I could truly feel like I gained her trust, this will be able to help me finally face the past. In her thoughts, she almost missed the darting shape of two fillies with what looked like bags. Curious, he moved to follow them while Heliodor, instantly picking up on what his mistress was doing, extinguished his light to hide them among the darkness. After navigating a few twists and turns without the fillies noticing, Raspberry could see that they were somehow going around collecting all the cats in town from their bags. Why are they collecting every pony's cats? Or rather, how are they luring the cats out? Rhetorically asked Raspberry of her pet. He had her bed down and made a shrugging motion to indicate he didn't know either. Suddenly, a ghostly figure emerged through a solid wall in front of the fillies. The green one seemed a bit jumpy, as she totally wasn't expecting it, while the pink filly with the tiara seemed impatient. But the ghost, Raspberry couldn't help but slowly back away from fear at their apparition. It was as if Applejack had not only become ethereal, but changed their color scheme and cutie mark, become a werewolf. There was a faint aura of darkness around the ghost, similar to what Raspberry had felt around Applebloom, and the implications of which were not good for Raspberry. She quickly turned and fled, Heliodor already taking flight behind a building as not to be spotted, until he was well away from Raspberry to defer attention from prying eyes. Who was that? Asked Fair Fista, motioning with her head towards where moments ago Raspberry Bell had been watching them. Diamond looked at the indicated place, seeing nothing. Who? Unicorn Mare. Raspberry-colored coat. two-tone mane of sky and purple. Silverspoon shook her head. Oh, that's Raspberry Barrel. Don't worry about her. She was always skids around every pony. Chances are she'll just think she was hallucinating this. No pony would believe she saw a werewolf ghost and the two richest fillies going around and kidnapping all the cats in town, especially considering where they're still going. Mister, however, wasn't so easily dismissive of being absurd. Why was she out so late? Tiara snorted impatiently. She's going out to visit her secret source of gems. She's a gem monger by trade. But instead of big stones, he still sells cheap gem shards that most ponies around here use for light decoration on their uncrafted goods. Really, the only interesting thing about her is she has a green phoenix for a pet. That caught Fist's attention. A gray phoenix, you say? Yeah, everybody thinks he's just a fake, and whoever sold the bird to Raspberry duped her pretty hard. But nobody has the heart to tell her the truth. It is a sort of kindness in a way, letting her live in ignorance and bliss. As it is, she doesn't seem to pose any threat to us, as you said. Silver, so let's hurry up with the cats. At the same time, a visibly sickened lightning dust was checking out at Traveler's Retreat. Lightning Dust, are you quite all right? Asked the worried Casimir. Yeah, I'm fine. Unconvincingly answered the Pegasus as he moved to try inside the checkout book with the quill on his shaking hoof. The sky blue one moved and lowered Dust's forelimb, taking the pen and signing the book instead. Everything is gonna be fine, Dust, calmly reassured Rainbow. Curly wore a saddlebag full of Lightning Dust's worldly possessions. It was excessively light, considering it contained everything Lightning Dust owned. I don't mean to sound rude, interjected Ascot, but she's going to be like that all night. She shouldn't be out at night. Who knows what might happen? Don't worry, Master Ascot. Dust here, she's been diagnosed with a rare disease. Super rare. Don't worry, it's not contagious. Princess Twilight herself diagnosed it due to being magical in origin, so you have a real guarantee it's not contagious. However, the princess also wants Dust to be moved to a more private location, away from the public. So take her to my cloud house for observation and basic living necessities. Oh, that's a relief, commented Cashmere. I'm sure she'll be a good host for you, Miss Dash. In truth, while technically Lightning Dust did have a magical base disease that wasn't contagious in the normal sense, the proprietors of the retreat did not need to know she was in fact living unlimited time. Twilight told Dust it was still up in the air whether or not she could be cured simply by raw magic intervention. She had also been told it was extremely unlikely she had the slain blood mutation Applejack had. It was almost a guarantee that the unlikely Pegasus would eventually devolve into a wild wolf, with no memory of her life as a pony. There was still a chance at salvation, with Twilight doing a somewhat poor job of hiding her glee, being able to research a live specimen of a pony, who was gradually falling victim to a centuries-old curse. But Lightning had to remain around Ponyville for observation reasons, along with making sure things didn't go out of hand. Fearing Dust might go feral the same way she, ironically, made Applejack lose control during that one brawl, and ended up making more ponies who would become werewolves as well. Rainbow put herself at risk by offering her own spare bedroom. Yes, said Dust. Both Pegasus having left the hotel, taking a wing at Rainbow's private estate. What, Dust? Asked Loyalty Incarnate. Why are you doing this? You mean letting you crash at my pad? Yeah. It does say it's to get me out of public view. I know it's more than that. And you know what it is, too. Rainbow looked over at Dust, who started tearing up again, evidently having not expected this much hospitality from Rainbow. Back at the academy, we remained partners, with you being the leader. We didn't part ways on good terms. Not then, and not after your Timberwolf incident. But any pony could see you try to improve. With life having dealt you a pretty crappy hand of cards, since Beatfire made me the leader, I can't lay my wing pony down. But I'm not even a wing pony, I'm a... Do not finish this sentence, ordered Rainbow Dash, swimming over and taking Dust's face into her own hoofs. And don't you say you don't deserve a second chance. Every pony does. And even if you are going to end up being the same pain in the rear I knew back at the academy. For the first time that day, Dust finally found reason to flash a smile. Mistress just wanted that. Only if you're the insufferable jerk I knew at the same time. You're out of line, cadet, playfully retorted Rainbow, glad to see Dust finding something to laugh about. We'll see who's out of line when I prove I'm faster than you, Dust challenged, taking off before Rainbow could even respond. Oh, it's on now, Furball! Shouted Rainbow, and he senses of the challenge, shooting off in a chase of her old rival once again. The next morning, Apple Bloom was fast asleep in her room, snoring as usual. But then she smelled something unusual. She slightly growling asleep. Quiets. A smell. Quiets. Indeed, for whatever reason, she was dreaming of there being cats close enough to there so she could smell them. A while ago, she didn't mind one way or another about the creatures, but thanks to her current state of being part supernatural canine, she had grown increasingly at a rate of felines for some reason. The fact that the smell was only getting stronger made her angry, which she bared her teeth and particularly shifted to become sharper. As she woke up from being so angry and opened her eyes, turning anger into total shock. Somehow, her room had become packed from floor to ceiling with an entire cat populace of Ponyville, and every single one of them immediately realized the yellow red-headed werewolf was trapped in the same room. Outside the homestead, Winona looked out the windows to Evelyn's room, having been drawn to the extremely loud cacophony of feline meowing and whining. Now tried to use a non-sapient animal form of pantomime to communicate with Opal, was trapped in that room and pressed against the window glass. Fortunately, trying to move her limbs around, she accidentally released the window latch, causing the window to burst open from the pressure of pussycats. Winona barely managed to avoid getting caught up in the waterfall of cats pouring out of the upper story window. It's a cat avalanche!